Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Welcome to All About Indigos with Christy Reeves
and Candace Vandal.
I am so excited to introduce our wonderful first guest on our show. She's not only a dear friend and soul sister of mine, but she's an amazing human being who's really been doing incredible work in this world, changing the paradigms of education, teaching about creativity, and really making a change in so many people's lives. She was featured on the film The Indigo Evolution, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. She is the founder and editor-in-chief of Inspired Parenting Magazine, the founder of Cosmic Kids, and the upcoming The World of Wonder Centers. My dear friend Judy Julian, welcome. Yay. Judy.
Hi, Christy. So nice to meet you.
It's been a year since Judy and I met, and it feels like it's been forever, right? Because
just a year.
Wow. And one of the things we've been talking about on the show is how when we meet our tribe, it feels like we've known this person forever, and that's how it's been with you, Judy. So I'm so honored that you're on our show today and that we'll be talking with you over the next 50 minutes.
About all of our favorite subjects.
Yes.
My favorite too, and I guess that's what really helps to delineate who our tribes are, who our connections are, is when we have conversations that can go on forever and ever, and time seems to stand still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. You've been doing such amazing work, and I haven't seen you for a couple of months now because I've been traveling. And I know you're really creating this new foundation for education with the World of Wonder Learning Center. Do you want to talk a bit about what is the inspiration behind these centers and what are some of the foundational principles that you're choosing to create with that?
Wow, that's a great question.
It's huge.
It's a wonderful question, though. It's really, and that's why we're such soul sisters, because you speak to what's really in my heart. And even that question itself resonates with me. Just earlier today, I was meeting with some people from the Shade Tree Foundation, and they're building some incredible new schools in the Watts district of Los Angeles. What really has inspired me and continues to inspire me about new educational paradigms is the collaborative model. It's all about coming together, sharing gifts, resonating with what really, really speaks to you, and see how we can then form not only a great new idea for learning for the community, but ways to have it sustainable, scalable, and in fact, a business model so that we can engender these new ways of being within ourselves as we conduct business and manage people. And then the children just naturally get to see the whole life unfold in front of them, from living together, working together, playing together. So the WOW Center is really, Christy, a cornucopia of everything that I've been doing over the last probably 10 to 15 years, and well before that in my other iterations of empowerment models for children. WOW really is, though, as you know, all ages, all together, all learning, all abilities, all the time.
It's such an indigo thing to create, the oneness, the unity, the authenticity. It's incredible, the empowerment that we lack so much in our current system. That is wow.
Yeah, and I guess I can't really be considered an indigo, but maybe I'm one of those people that they call the indigo front runners or whatever
definitely.
that is. I don't know what I am, but
you don't need a label. You're doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I love that. Have you ever seen that YouTube video viral that went on with all the children? And they had T-shirts on with labels, and one would say oppositional rage, and
then they pull it off, and it's like
activists, you know, creators, artists. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful.
It was like under a mental health channel, I think.
It was the CCHR, the Citizens Commission for Human Rights. Yeah, you can find on the website.
Wasn't it empowering? And I think that's what really resonates within me. And as Christy, we've had many discussions, and I've been lucky enough to be on her Children of the Rainbow web series. recently, and that is she really understands that this is kind of a common thread that's run through my life, this wanting to explore new ways. As I sometimes refer to myself, what Jean Houston uses, an evocateur of what's possible. So what's really possible with education? What's really possible within ourselves to be facilitators around children, to be parents with an open mind? What does that mean? We really have to do the work, and that's always an interesting challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Definitely. And having parents understand that the old paradigm of that isn't really what's working, and that it is from you. You are the leader, and there is a new way to open your heart and learn different things from these kids, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And what I love about the WOW Center that you are creating is this inclusiveness of everything. It's not, we're not just teaching the kids and having the kids separate from the adults. We're including all ages. You're bringing in the seniors with the young ones, right?
Yeah, that's really
All
great. And,
abilities.
they're doing it in Europe. They're doing bits and pieces of what we're doing. And what we're proposing with the WOW Center, which is multi-generational, nature and interest-led, is a large concept. However, if you chunk it down to the little bite-sized pieces, there are plug-and-play aspects of it that we can do in phases. We can help people do it in other parts of the country. So we really want the WOW, we're actually calling it now World of Wonder Learning Lab, a living and learning laboratory of human potential. I mean,
I
come
love
on.
that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
that's what
amazing.
it's going to be. It's going to be.
Human
We'll have links to universities so we can do pre and post assessment of how this is making a difference from a social and emotional intelligence. We're linked and collaborators with 6seconds.org, and they're going to give us emotional intelligence assessment tools. So we'll be able to see the positive benefits of what this learning laboratory will be. So it will be all abilities. Children that are labeled and sometimes admonished and sometimes even drugged will now be brought into the mainstream of the learning environment to see what we can learn from them and what other
Full body
children.
chills.
Yeah, and
Me too.
the young children.
Yeah.
So the kids will realize that, hey, we don't have to put those children over there and these children here. We're all together. And at that young age, they'll learn about inclusivity and they'll learn about we're all one and interconnectedness. So it's a very exciting time. We're having great discussions and moving the project forward. Not only is it going to be an incredible learning environment and a sustainable, scalable business model, but it's also going to be the healthiest building.
Yeah.
We're working with biobiologists from Switzerland and our own local biobiologist, Mary Cordero, and safebaby.com to get the healthiest and safest environment and products and learning tools that you can be anywhere. So it's kind of going to be like a utopia.
Yeah.
We were just talking, we did a pre-recorded show before this, and we were just talking about how important nature and natural products are to highly sensitive people and how that really shifts the way they learn, how they feel emotionally, and all of that. So to have that kind of holistic environment is like a dream, in my opinion. Growing up the opposite of that, it's dreamy. So incredible work.
Did you and Christy find each other to do this wonderful show because you are also sensitive?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've had a YouTube channel for a few years about indigos and highly sensitive and ADHD and all of that. And I was looking up on Instagram one day. I just wrote a book about Indigo Children, and I was like, well, what hashtag should I use for this? So I looked up hashtag Indigo Children, and her post was the one that popped up first. And I was like, what is this? Children of the Rainbow. So I went to her Instagram page, and I sent her a message. And I said, hey, I just wrote a book about this. I think we should talk. And she wrote me back right away, and she's like, and I think we should meet. So we met right after that and had a meeting, and we said, gosh, we know we're supposed to do something together. Was this a year ago?
A year ago,
But
same time I met you.
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
All of you came in about a year ago.
Filter us in.
The tribe is coming in.
Yeah, the tribe was
Yeah.
definitely coming in at that time. So we looked at each other, and we were like immediately connected, but we're like, we know we're supposed to do something together, but not right now. And what's that going to be? We don't know. We'll figure it out. And then it took a long time for our schedules to actually mesh for me to be interviewed for her show, for the Children of the Rainbow. And finally, when I went over there, it was funny because it was perfect timing, and I had just decided I need to do a radio show or something where I'm broadcasting my voice about this subject in another way. And after our interview, she said to me, well, I'm going to do this radio show, and I need a co-host, and what do you think about this? And I'm like, is this for real? And so that's when we came up with the name and the topic, and it was it.
Yeah.
Weeks later.
Yeah. And I find it's such a common thread that I see in a lot of these indigos or the tribe. Once we're connecting, kind of when we connected, it was instant, yeah, we're supposed to do something together.
Yeah.
And I remember the first conversation we had, Judy, was about a year ago. And we talked on the phone for an hour, and we would have continued for another hour or two probably. And we're like, no, but let's just get together for dinner and eat. And it's really when the tribe meets, there's such a
Purpose together.
A purpose, a collaboration, okay, this is your gift, this is your strength, this is what your wisdom is. You have all this wisdom about education and creative education and empowering not just the children, but empowering families so they can then raise empowered children. And I feel like, this show, one of the intentions that we set for the show is to call the Indigos
Together.
together because we have this important mission to change this world.
Yeah.
So that is what I feel about all of us finding one another.
And I'm sure they're hearing you too. They're hearing the call.
Yeah.
I've heard from some people that there's some initiatives in India that I'm exploring, and initiatives in other parts of the country, and it's as though the children in some incredibly mystical way are orchestrating this in some divine fashion, that they're so powerful, and they need us, we that have the hearts and the minds and the abilities to bring this all together. And one of the things when you were talking, Christy, I think when you talk about tribe, that at least within the circles that are forming, there's a sense of commitment, and there's a sense of a camaraderie. There's also a sense of ultimately it's about the children. So anytime there comes a conversation, or egos might get in the way with some people, because sometimes it's a little difficult for people to collaborate. What I've found, though, when you find people that really are emotionally fluent and have done their spiritual work, it's such a joy, and that's the kind of tribe that you move forward with. That collaboration becomes second nature and vital.
Well, it's about something bigger than you. I think that's what I've been finding with the people that we've been connecting with lately is, and so much joy for me realizing that personally is, oh my gosh, it's not even about me. Oh my gosh, it's not even about you. There's no competition. We have a global purpose that we have to do for the world, for the kids, and it takes the pressure off. It makes you connect easier, and I feel like it keeps the flow going pretty quickly. We're meeting a lot of great people fast.
Yeah.
I like that. I guess the time is right.
The time must be now.
The time is now.
Yeah.
And what I would love for you to maybe talk a bit more about, because I've seen that in your work, is children as teachers, children as our teachers.
That's a great shift, isn't it? Yeah. And one that once you try it on, once you try that suit on of positioning children as the teacher, it's almost like a paradigm shift. And you can, you know those prints that were the black and whites that you could look at something and look at something. They say, now really look, and you're going to see something else. Yes. And that other thing. Once you soften,
those are my favorite.
You soften and kind of let go of the mental and the linear way of looking at the picture. Something else arises. That's kind of the way I feel about these children.
And it's more beautiful.
It is. And it's a humbling experience. When I was at the Hunter School for that year with the children ages in kindergarten through 8th grade, really, really highly sensitive children that are in residence there in a therapeutic environment, I found that they were really, I mean, I got it in such a strong sense because the people in their midst were challenged to be their very best. And these kids can pick up inauthentic, say one thing, feel another, repressed things that aren't being dealt with. So, they really invite us to do our work, to be our very best. And quite frankly, I think it's just about, at least for myself, keeping my inner world, keeping my open-heartedness at such a level that I can meet the children. It's not like I have to come down. It's like I raise myself up so that I can be in their midst.
I'm getting full body
Oh my
chills.
God, like it hasn't stopped.
Thank you for saying that.
That is incredible. I feel like Indigo Children are natural teachers of authenticity because they have the inner lie detector, because they can, this is why the authority has always been such a hard thing for these kids. I'm sure you see it a lot where they're like, but you're wrong. Just because you say it should be is not what I'm feeling. It's not what you're actually feeling. You're not saying what you're feeling. And it's a hard thing. And I think that's what's shifting in our society right now too, is the authority, this external authority shifting to an internal authority of looking within, doing the inner work, doing the empowerment on ourselves so that we are surrendering to a child maybe having a lesson for us, maybe being the teacher of a new reality. I'm sure you see that a lot in the work that you do.
And we're beginning to see it in the media. I mean, when Heroes came out, it's, save the cheerleader, save the world. It's these these kids in high school. And then Touch came on with Kiefer Sutherland after that. And it was all about this non-verbal child that was helping lead the way for unraveling of mysteries and truth.
Yes.
And ultimately, isn't that really? And on your Children of the Rainbow series, you are giving evidence to this legion of children that are out there. And I love the way that you interview specialists that are giving credence to, therapies for, support for, new ways of teaching. And I was, honored to be among them. And of course, Candace was on the show. So it's showing that there's a groundswell of support, information, conversation, and community building around this concept of Indigo's special children, new ways of, I feel, nourishing and empowering and really unleashing the inherent majesty of our youth. They come in fully loaded.
The wise guide inside, I like to call it. It's true. Empowering that, empowering your intuition, empowering your natural ways so you can actually live your potential.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing. And we had the most amazing experience at the Wild Planning Summit last year when it was the day of education. Remember that, Judy? And we had one of the kids step up and take over.
Wow. Love.
And didn't he take over?
He did, yes.
How old is he?
How old is he?
I'm going to say 10, maybe 11. So we have a youth advisory council with the WOW Planning Center Summit, planning summit, yes. Yeah. And these are people that we're having meetings, we're convening, we're moving forward with discussions, with ideas, with actual action steps. And we said, let's have the kids. So we had young Sophia and Brooklyn, and then Spencer. So we had one from each age group, and they came and they spoke, and they came up and actually led the class, which was really, really great. So we're listening to them. I hope they know that. I believe they do. Yeah. I think we're all feeling kind of the sense of going through the birth canal presently with the dis-ease or the unease in our society as we birth new ways of being in all these systems. And I think the kids are feeling that. They're great mirrors and reflectors of what's going on in the world. So if we can do our best to balance ourselves, I think the kids will fare better. And then we can go about the business of building the new systems that will be there to, when the dust settles, when the older systems have finally outworn their stay.
Well, that's what the Indigos are here to do: bust the old so that the crystals can bring in the new.
Yeah,
it's happening. It's taken a long time, but it's definitely happening now. Good times.
And what I just loved, how you're approaching things, I think it was so beautiful, because as adults we always think we have all the answers of what the kids need. And we feel like, or if the kids don't have the answers, we as adults have to figure out if something is not going the way with the kids. And what actually happened on that particular day, these kids actually came together, and you were asking the kids, well, if you wanted to go to school, what kind of school would you like to go to? How should that school be structured? What kind of things do you want to learn, and how do you want to learn these things? And these three kids got together, right? And they came up with the most incredible ideas. They actually had a whole floor plan for us and what kind of rooms they wanted. And they wanted to have a stage so they could present what they were learning, kind of like a mini
Makes so much
TEDx
sense. Yeah.
platform
They
for
gotta
these
express it.
kids. And they
Yeah.
and not what was interesting, because so many times we hear kids say, "Oh, I don't like to go to school," or "School is stupid," or it's hard. And none of these kids actually said, "We don't want to go to school." They all said, "Yes, we want to go to school, but when we
has
want
to
to
be
learn,
different."
but here is the way that we want
Yeah.
to learn."
Heck yeah.
And I love that you gave these kids a platform to say, "Hey, we really want to learn, and let us kids tell you adults how
be
we want to
heard.
learn."
That's
So we can
incredible.
thrive.
One of the
right?
things we've been developing, wonderful, Christy, and a springboard from that concept is what we call Resonant Learning Approach, RLA. And it's a 16-week online training program for teachers, parents, caregivers, anybody that's in the midst of children, to offer them an opportunity to really make that shift, make that shift from child as being taught and tutored to what can they show me today, and what. So it's really about a mindset shift for those in the midst of children. And when they find, let's just take an example of a child that's seemingly unruly, that might be that isn't doing what their parent or teacher wants them to do at that time. So that's labeled sometimes in our culture unruly, meaning that the child is being themselves. If within the person, the adult in their midst, if they're able to manage themselves and to align with the possibility that this is something more than it appears, it can amazingly and almost instantaneously shift the interaction. So then it becomes, as I talked about with our recent Head Start, Inspired Parenting, our magazine does Head Start workshops, and we spoke of positive discipline, an oxymoron. What does that mean? Positive discipline is really an inward journey for the parent or adult in the midst of the child. If we're able to self-regulate and navigate what energies we're giving off in the midst of these seemingly unruly situations, they can be miraculously shifted and changed around. And all it is opening up your mind for new ways of viewing something.
I love that so much. The word boundaries has been coming up a lot in our talks, and I feel like parents that have really amazing boundaries around that, their kids feel so much safer. The kids are, and it really is that. And parents have the power to have those boundaries, inner and outer. And I just think about the kids that we were talking about earlier today that are highly sensitive and have things coming at them in all directions, whether it be emotional, physical, high sense. To have those strong boundaries is everything to them. So to have, and not even just from parents, I'm saying from environmental as well, but to have that kind of internal boundary would be incredible.
I'm learning even today, Candace, about my boundaries. It's a continual process. And one of the things we talked about in my meeting today with the number of educationalists doing great things in the Watts area was that it's all about communicating.
Yeah.
And it's all about our work and what we're doing so that we can hold space for this new way of being with children. So, boundaries is really something, and training parents and teachers doesn't just happen in a 2-week training. It doesn't just happen in our 16-week online RLA course. It's a process and a daily practice.
Daily practice, for sure.
For us.
Yeah.
And the children will kind of be our barometers whether we're on track or not, because when they're off and then we fall into that kind of neural pathway that might be a trigger from the past for us or whatever pattern we fall into, if we can be aware enough to not fall into that loop of patterned habitual way of being.
Yeah.
So these kids can, through their seeming triggers, offer us opportunities to go deeper and ultimately feel more connected to our children and better at our life path and purpose.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Daily practice.
Absolutely. I want to talk a bit more about your beautiful online magazine that you have, Inspired Parenting. Thank you. It's just such a fabulous resource for parents, and I feel like everybody who works with children.
It is, Christine. Thank you. You're so sweet to bring that up. It was really born out of our Cosmic Kids locations, which are play and party centers. We have some in Mumbai. We're looking to renew and refresh them in the LA area when we do World of Wonder Learning Labs. We wanted to give the parents an opportunity to read about and be inspired by new ways of perceiving the role of being a parent, the role of being a teacher, psychologist, child development specialist. So not only do we have an online presence, we do have a radio show that's currently in hiatus. It's on Om Times Radio, Inspired Parenting. And we're gearing up for our third issue of Inspired Parenting, which will have a new and improved, greener look, and will be in conjunction with the World of Wonder Learning Lab. So it'll be a wonderful resource for parents, for community members, and it will convey all the principles at the WOW Center. So it will be new parents. Parenting begins before conception. How do we parent our parents with seniors, teens and tweens? Positive discipline. Marcia Tongle's wonderful Legacy Wisdom School will be bringing in all of these concepts that some can read about. They can go online and read about it. They can hear it. And they can also go to the brick and mortar learning center to actually experience it. So bringing in these new concepts and ways of being, I think it's important to reach people on multiple levels, not only multisensory, but multimedia.
Yeah, definitely.
So and then it becomes the new normal.
Yeah.
And won't that be great when the new normal is this new, more expansive way of being with these wonderful indigos?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally, it's exactly.
Yeah. And I love how you're putting this, the new normal.
Yeah,
Because
love that.
especially the indigos or the crystals or the rainbow, highly sensitive people, they've been often viewed as difficult or different or not normal. Or some of these kids who have intuitive abilities or who could see, let's say, they could see spirits, and or that need a more nature, creative-based foundation in their education system. And if you could make that the new normal, that would be absolutely
That
like
would shift
world-changing.
So much. I work with a lot of young 20s, and it's funny because they all have a very similar thing in common where they are awakened to their abilities and more seeing auras and feeling things and being psychic about stuff, but they're so afraid to admit it because they don't want to be different. That's what makes me weird. I'm just going to ignore it. And if it could be the new normal and we just talk about this all the time, like, oh yeah, you saw that too. I think so many young people would bring that out even more and more and make it even more normal for the younger kids that they're having now, because they're all young parents or about to be this generation.
Yeah. And I know from knowing you that you were a highly sensitive child. You grew up, in being highly sensitive. What helped you as a highly sensitive child before you knew what even high sensitivity really was?
I think I was gifted with a capacity for imagination, which I'm grateful and thankful that I still carry with me today, even in my business dealings and certainly in my personal relationships. And it helps with creativity and innovation in bringing new concepts to market. Imagination, and another gift I think I was endowed with, and I'm happy, is the ability to understand people's reasons beyond their behaviors. Our dear parents, as well-meaning as they are, and mine were, I was able to understand why, out of their circumstances, that they did at a young age, did the very best that they could. And so I think that helps me to understand the need to allow parents to receive this information from our magazines, from the information that we're giving, that they're doing the best they can, and they really do want to learn. And heavens to Betsy, we don't want to admonish the parents for doing things wrong, or for goodness sakes, the education system for doing things wrong all these years. I'm a big proponent of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and bless the parents and the education system, because they all got us to where we are today. Bless as much as we can our current situation on the planet, especially in the United States, because it's bringing us to where we need to have these conversations about, hey, we're taking back our power. These kids, we're going to train them on their intuition and to trust that and to trust their abilities.
I couldn't agree more with that. It's a tough one for a lot of people because they think, oh, if that didn't happen, we'd be here. And I'm thinking, no, because that happened, you are here. It's a shift, but it's so true. Just being grateful for the process and the consciousness level that things were at to get us to here now. It's tough, but it's healing.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's tough, but it's healing. And I think the children in their infinite wisdom understand that we're doing the best that we can. One of our quotes at Cosmic Kids was, we had quotes for the children and quotes for the parents, to kind of affirmations for them. And so one of the affirmations for the children was, I have patience with my parents. They're doing the best that they can.
I love that. That's so cute.
And one of the parents' affirmations was, I have much to learn from my child today. And I will tend to my child on their own time frame for just a period of time. Even if you take 10 minutes out of your day, rather than we got to do this and we've got wash your hands, it's dinner time, and it's time to brush your teeth, and for maybe 15-20 minutes simply let the child be and see what magic occurs, and then we can go back to our schedules, because we do have schedules, but doing that one small simple exercise can start to open up your mind to new and more fluid ways of being in the presence of children, more mindful and really in the now, because as we know, these sensitive children know when you're not present.
They get angry.
And don't you sometimes, if you're telling a good girlfriend
What do you mean sometimes?
something that's going on, and you can feel it when
All
they're
the
not
time.
present,
Oh,
can't
and
you?
you're like, hello, I'm talking. I do that to my husband all the time. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm listening, but I'm doing this too. I'm like, you must do it all right now, right here with me.
And here's something funny, though, in a story along those lines. Something I learned at the Hunter School. Talk about multitasking. And I agree with you with your husband, and I would be that way as well. And these kids today can do that. They can be on their computer and on the other side of the room, and there's two people arguing or doing something. They will absolutely be right there with you. They're able to, whether it's bilocate or teleport, or they're able to do it. So that brings a whole new world into the world of education. So then but you still want to be present. And then what is respectful? What is respectful attention? When we've got the world of technology and these kids are able to do all these things, they probably think they're being very respectful, because on this whatever level that they're dealing with you, they're right there. So what does that leave us? New ways of consideration.
You know, I remember growing up, I was that kid, and I remember people being like, you're so rude. I'm like, what? I just heard your whole conversation. I'm actually watching this show, and I'm texting at the same time. But I would get a bad rap because it was mean and not considerate. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally can't just sit here and do one thing. Like, I couldn't. And you see now in colleges, all these kids are like, oh, I'll do that later. I'm reading the notes online. I'm talking to Susie. I'm doing that. That's just the way the brain works. And I think a lot of these kids, myself included, get those bad labels because of that reason. You're not paying attention. You're inattentive. No, I'm over attentive.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I don't know how we relate that to your story with your husband, because I completely agree with you. And maybe there's something, because there are people that process information differently, and they talk differently, and they communicate differently.
It makes me think of John here, I'm sorry, jump in, but it makes me think of computers. You know, when computers started out with the core processors, now we're up to quad, you know, and beyond. So just as conscious evolves, the brain evolves, so they're processing on different, you know, processors, different quads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
And our viewers don't see what you're doing behind the scenes, so I just want to let them know. John is listening to the conversation.
And
he's
processing.
He's throwing all the information on the screen, and behind the scenes finding more images to throw up on that screen. So John is our multitasker behind the camera over here.
So really, it's a whole brave new world out there that might not look the way we remember. And the whole realm of respect and focus and commitment and giving our best, and the big word, transparency, is going to have a whole new meaning for not just the kids, but all of us. So we can only be who we are. And there's no more, not that we hid, but I think as adults we were brought up in a society that sometimes lent itself to not playing the game, but doing what you needed to do to get something done. I don't think that works anymore. And so the whole education system is going to be changing because these kids are showing us, and there's evidence that new capabilities are arising, like teleportation, mind reading, manifestation, all these things. These kids are doing it. They're healing people, as you had mentioned that, and the people I was with earlier, they're healers, and there's new potentialities arising. So we have to revamp the school system, not just for something beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic, and even STEM and STEAM. There's more, but also there's these new capabilities that we want to make sure that we nurture and embrace in the right ways.
I love it when indigos come together because I'm like, I need to ask Judy this question next. What
says
changes
it.
has she
Me
been seeing in the
too.
children? And you just answered that whole question.
Oh, seriously.
I've got even bigger changes, which is one of the reasons I'm going to India, that these kids are now doing incredible feats through a school in Bangalore. I'm planning to go for a month next month.
Yeah.
Or at the end of this month. And they're doing incredible feats. They're able to answer any question in seconds, young children. Any math problem, advanced math, how hot is it on Venus right now? And they answer the question in seconds, and then the people that ask the question at the school in Bangalore at Paramahansa's Nithyananda's ashram, they have to check it and say, oh my God, it's right. You know, how tall is the Empire State Building? They've never heard of the Empire State Building. They're able to answer. They're able to visit your bedroom and say what color your curtains are. They're able to win at hide and seek with blindfolds on. So they're cracking coconuts open with their mind and sealing them back up again. So these things are happening. They're on Facebook, and it's a reality. To me, it's a game changer. So I'm going over there to investigate, and I plan to bring back information and support and a way that we can bring this new understanding about the potentials we all hold into a learning modality.
Yeah. And for me, it's so interesting to see that it's like it seems to be so much more accepted in certain countries that kids have these abilities. I read a book by Paul Dong, and unfortunately, I cannot remember the title of the book. And it's out of print in English, so maybe John will be able to find it on Amazon somewhere. And he reported the same thing about China. I think it's called the Super Psychic Children of China, where they gave children a letter that they folded up, and the kid put it underneath the arms, and they could read the whole letter without looking at it, just having it touch their skin.
So excited
So
about that.
what I love is that these schools are out there in certain countries, and now are you bringing that information back here and integrating it with what you're teaching?
At the WOW, yes. So again, we go back to what is WOW? It's a living and learning laboratory of human potential. So it's not an end result. It's a process. And yes, I'm bringing back this information and honor the heritage from whence it came in this particular Indian culture with this wonderful leader of that group who runs the school. I'll be meeting with the educators over there. And it's a really fascinating time. I already have another business in India, so they'll be coming to join me. So that's
absolutely
it's a game changer. It's a game. We already know it has to change education. This is a game changer. About books or even computers. Will these things be necessary? We all have this capacity, and again, the children are teaching us.
That's what we are.
And what I loved about you saying is the WOW Center, it's not going to be like, okay, this is how it is and this is how it's going to stay. But because we are shifting so quickly as a human race, there is a different need constantly that is arising. And I think this is the problem with the current education system, because the current education system is 100 years old, and it hasn't really been allowed that evolvement. I mean, yes, there are educators that have come in, such as Maria Montessori or Rudolf Steiner, that brought more of that creative education. But what I love is just what you said. Let's make it a place where we can keep evolving and where we can keep doing the research and kind of keep evolving as the new children that are coming in with these different abilities, and who knows what kind of abilities we're going to see next.
I feel like it's getting us ready for the time of transparency, because everyone's going to be telepathic, and you'll be like, what? I can see what you're thinking. And so this is like the stage on the way to what we were just saying. Put the letter under here and they're reading it. It's like you can't hide. You have to be honest.
And then you think about the media and the news, and we will be so self-empowered from birth through adulthood that we will do what serves us best as a collective and really honor that sense of interconnectedness and oneness.
I love that.
So that's truly, to me, heaven on earth. And I believe that we're approaching it, as you mentioned earlier, Candace, at a rapid pace. Things are happening.
Pace, yeah.
Thank God.
And thank you for saying that. I have a cousin who's like way younger than I am. And she graduated high school last year. And in Germany, you go to school for 13 years, from when you're 6 to when you're 19. And they just shortened it to 12 years. Wow. So she was one of the first years that had 1 year less to learn. And she said she would start school at 8 o'clock in the morning, come home at 6, and then do homework or learn for tests. And she did that during the 2 years of high school, grade 11 and grade 12. And after she graduated, she said, I spent the last 2 years of my life just studying for school. On the weekend, I was too tired to do anything. And I don't even know what my gifts are. I don't know what my strengths are. I don't know what my interests are. Because with 2 years of high school, I had to give all of this up. I had no time to nurture anything but the academics. There was no creative education. There was no, okay, what are your strengths? What are your gifts? Let's support that, right? Let's look at these kids and see what they're capable of doing.
Ultimately, I think one of the goals, Christy and Candace, for the WOW Learning Lab is to guide our young souls to align with their purposes as soon as possible.
I love it.
And
Absolutely.
and to not make it a race or mandatory. So it's not a cookie cutter education. What one's specific gifts are, and they may not be the gifts that we know of now.
That's right.
They might be new gifts.
That's right.
But if we're attentive and open and hold space for that child, that these new gifts, and then that's how we will ready someone to move on to the later phases of their life, which may or may not include, as we're understanding now, a traditional education. We're already on the that way.
That's what the show's about.
Yes,
And we're done.
thank you.
That was amazing. That is so true.
If you had a
My
microphone,
body's
you
like
could just drop it,
vibrating.
just like
I love
God
this
did.
conversation.
I love it. I wish that school was there when I was in school. I would have loved to go to every time I
This
hear
is my
talk
dream.
about the WOW Center, I'm like, I wish I had a school
Can
like
we go
that.
back? Can we go? We can, right? It's all
There's
ages.
like a retrofit that you can go in. We're
Perfect.
going to, in fact, have time machines on site so you can go in and go back to your childhood and then enjoy it for a little while and then come back and then
I
go
love
back
it.
to
Great.
go back
I'm
to your radio
in.
show.
Let's do that.
So cool. Wow.
That is
Great.
absolutely
Great stuff.
wonderful.
And we're doing it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are just breathing kind of a sigh of relief that, at least myself, finally, I'm singing this song for a long time. And finally, I hear someone might be not just listening, but enjoying the tune.
Honestly, yes.
So isn't that nice? Isn't that nice to feel that?
That is the most
Just-
fulfillment I've felt in years. Is that where you're like, oh, I'm doing it, I'm in it, and people get it, and you're like, what? That's all it takes. A lot of indigos grow up thinking they have this big purpose to change the world, and if you know you're doing your part and you're being heard in that way, and you're shifting things by being that change, it's better than anything.
Yeah.
And then meeting people like you that are doing such big things on that scale, it's like just so inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for what
you.
you do.
Yeah.
I
thank
love
you.
it. It's me, and
Yeah.
it's the very blood in my veins.
Yes.
So it's chosen me. I'm very clear of that. So I'm pretty grateful because sometimes people don't know what their gifts are or what they really want to do, and maybe it just wasn't time for them to know. I feel lucky that I got to know
Early.
in enough time to do something.
Yeah.
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 Fantastic.
Yeah, and I feel like you just put that right. I love it. It chooses us.
You have to
I
allow
love
it.
that. Yeah.
Allowing's another good one. Because you can feel it, a knock, knock, knock on the door, and
Don't be scared. Let it in.
And we only have about 5 minutes left, but I want to make sure we get to, I know it goes by so quickly, that we get to the Conscious Parenting Symposium that you're going to be doing at the Conscious Life.
Yes,
So let's talk a
please
little bit
tell us
about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have Wendy Silvers of the Million Mamas Movement from Agape International, who was kind enough to invite me on the panel. She's the producer of the panel, and Del Bigtree is going to be on it from Vaxxed. And
Brilliant movie, whoever hasn't seen it.
Arlene Hilton is going to be on it, who's wonderful. She runs the teen program at Agape International. There's a couple of other people on the panel. I'm not exactly sure of who they all are, but you can go to Conscious Life Expo. We're speaking on Sunday at the Conscious Parenting Symposium in the ballroom. It's at the LAX Hilton from 7:30 to 9:30. They'll be live streaming it if you can't be there. We'll be there. We'll be doing Facebook Live through Inspired Parenting Magazine and doing some interviews on site. Susie Lula of the Motherhood Evolution will be doing some interviews with
Wonderful.
Inspired Parenting.
So neat.
So it's going to be great. It's this Sunday. It's all weekend. I think it's Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday are really big talks and big speakers and events that you can go to that are kind of like a half-day workshop. So Conscious
So cool.
Life Expo in LA this weekend.
Go and
We'll
see
be there.
more of Judy.
Yay!
And Judy, how else can our listeners find you?
Yes.
What's
They
the best way?
can email me at publisher@inspiredparenting.com. And you can visit our websites. I'm on Skype, judy.julin, and certainly Facebook, Judy Julin, Inspired Parenting. And I'm also deeply involved with the Hug Alliance right now that we just formed. Now, the Hug Alliance is made up of 14 member organizations that are all oriented towards conscious, heart-centered businesses and organizations. We're thrilled to have Songlines Entertainment, and Christy is part of it. And we're going to be doing some big things in the community. So we're bringing all these ideas for new parenting, new education through the Hug Alliance and through actual hug mobs in the community, so we can get together, share ideas, hug a little, and smile a whole lot more.
That is
Love
so
it.
cute. I love that.
I love this. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
absolutely. So yeah, definitely everybody who's been listening, take a look at inspiredparenting.com, cosmickids.com. Get in touch with Judy. She's an incredible, powerful force of nature.
Thank you.
And
Thank you both. Congratulations on your
been-
show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me
Thank
on.
Oh, our pleasure.
Thank you
So
for
fun.
being here. And we'll be back on Saturday, actually airing live from the Conscious Life Expo at 6 p.m. with a surprise guest. So stay tuned. We'll announce it on Facebook.
Yay.
And then next Wednesday, we have the beautiful Michelle
That's right.
Livingston on our show.
So
She'll be
excited for
calling
that.
in. And she's actually up next. So stay tuned for more Michelle coming up.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys very soon.
See you next Wednesday.